people marked the end of Passover. Passover is the holiday in which we celebrate our first step to nationhood, the exodus from slavery in Egypt and the beginning of our ancestors' journey to the land of Israel. The Jewish people set out for the Promised Land 3,500 years ago. On Passover, Jewish people around the globe gathered together at the Seder, our special holiday meal, to tell the story of our liberation. We remind ourselves of the suffering we endured, the generations-long hardships we survived on the road to salvation. We remember this pain by eating what we call matzah, the bread of affliction, and maror, the bitter herbs. And we dip our food in salt water. Why? To commemorate our tears. Yet, this year, we did not need bitter herbs and salt water to remember the pain. Because this year, every Jewish family had an empty hole, a hole in their hearts. This year, every Jew focused on the atrocities of October 7th and the suffering of the Israeli hostages held in Hamas terror tunnels. We couldn't really celebrate our ancestors' liberation while our brothers and sisters are still waiting to be freed from the Hamas monsters. Yet, as my people marked this Passover with grief, the UN is again seeking to reward the perpetrators of the horrors. The UN couldn't care less about Israel. To hell with our safety, to hell with our future, and to hell with our hostages. The General Assembly is fueled by nothing other than political interests. Not by the UN Charter, not by morality. And nothing exemplifies the UN's rotten values more than the advancement of a Palestinian statehood. No, nothing can reward and incentivize the terrorists that committed the October 7th massacre more than this discussion here today. To this day, you have not even condemned Hamas, not even once. To this day, not a single UN initiative has been taken for the sake of the hostages, the Israeli hostages. Yet instead, this body has focused only on recognizing a Palestinian terror state, unilaterally, an entity fueled by Jewish genocide, by terror, by Nazi-like incitement. You know, by advancing a Palestinian state, you are telling the child-murdering Hamas rapists that terror pays off. You have done nothing for the victims, but have mobilized for the murderers. It makes me want to vomit. Yes, vomit. You know that the Palestinian Authority doesn't meet the criteria for statehood. No Palestinian leader, not a single one of them, has even condemned Hamas or their massacre. You prefer another rogue state, and to hell with the Jewish state. The Palestinian Authority is paying salaries, think of it, paying salaries to the very terrorists that invaded Israel and murdered 1,200 innocent Israelis. This is who you want to grant statehood to? Granting full UN membership to the Palestinians will only have two destructive results. Number one, it will further incentivize terror, as I explained. And number two, it is a clear message to the Palestinians that they never ever have to sit at the negotiating table, let alone to make any compromises. Everyone who understands something about negotiations can understand what I just said. The Palestinians have rejected in the past every peace plan ever made, and they continue to support terror and boycott any negotiations. And now they know that their rejectionism pays off. Look at this discussion. These UN sessions will be remembered in the future as one of the primary obstacles to resolving the conflict. Remember my words. The UN today is the main impediment to peace. You, most of you, you that supports a forced unilateral establishment of a terror state, a Palestinian terror state, is an obstacle to peace. You are the dream come true for every Palestinian terrorist that seeks to destroy Israel through diplomatic terror. Because without your support, the Palestinians would have had to internalize that negotiations and mutual compromises are the only way forward. That's how you make peace. You should be ashamed of yourselves, those who support a unilateral, forced Palestinian terror state. Colleagues, during the Holocaust, there were the Nazis, there were collaborators, and there were those who turned a blind eye to genocide. All of them, all were guilty. And today there are modern-day Hitlers, such as Yahya Sinwar and Ayatollah Khamenei. There are Nazi terrorists like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. And there are collaborators and those who turn a blind eye, just like the UN and its agencies today, such as UNRWA, OCHA, UN Women, just like, sadly, so many here in the General Assembly. This body reeks of anti-Semitism. It's everywhere. The UN cares nothing for Israeli blood. Nothing. Zero. It is a collaborator with the Nazis of our day, working to ensure Hamas's survival and even reward them for murder and rape. I have no words. The Palestinians have rejected, I'll say it again, every peace plan. They rejected every peace plan because to them, the existence of a Jewish state is unacceptable. This is not about land. And if you need more proof, well, take a drive to Columbia University or to New York University. Listen to the murderous cries of the pro-Palestinians mobs. Look at their violence. Hear their calls for the genocide of Jews and Israelis. From the river to the sea, these mobs across the United States and Europe, they expose the truth. They have removed the mask of the Palestinian authorities' lies. The anti-Semites failed to annihilate us during the Holocaust. They failed in 1948, in 1967, and in 1973. But today, they are attempting again. This time not only through terror and war, like we've seen on October 7th, but also through UN weaponization and the exploitation of UN bodies. That's how they want to achieve their goal. And here is what they scream, and I quote, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." So for those of you that automatically vote against Israel with no understanding, I'll explain. They want a Palestine that stretches from the Jordan River, Israel's eastern border, to the Mediterranean Sea, Israel's western border. A free Palestine means that Israel doesn't exist. That's what they mean. And they have another chant. We don't want no two-state, we just want 48. I'll remind you what they mean. They want to return to the situation before Israel's war of independence in 1948, after they rejected the partition plan that was accepted here in 1947. They want to erase Israel. The chants of the pro-Palestinian rioters on campuses are calls for Israel's destruction. We always knew that Hamas hides in schools. We just didn't realize that it's not only schools in Gaza, it's also Harvard, Columbia, and many elite universities. This is what we hear at academic institutions across the world, and they directly represent the Palestinians' goal. The only solution for them is a single Palestinian state that is Judenrein, Jew-free, from the river to the sea, achieved through repeated October 7th against Israel and also against Jews. And you here are collaborating with them and encouraging their racism and anti-Semitism. Just as Germany was the world capital of science and culture, yet it was there that Nazism was born and spread. History is now repeating itself. Elite universities, supposed bastions of liberalism and academia, have now become the breeding grounds for the most heinous racism and bigotry. Those that carry on the Nazis' race theory today are restoring to violence, shattering windows, attacking Jewish students, and calling for their removal from campus. The images that have come out of Columbia University are reminiscent of Kristallnacht. Just yesterday, over 100 violent pro-Palestine Nazi agitators were arrested at Columbia University. Swift and severe action must be taken against faculty that back this mayhem. University presidents and professors today must be held accountable for permitting this. Students who call for the murder of their peers or use physical violence must be arrested and expelled. But this brainwashing did not happen overnight. It was the result of years of incitement and delegitimization here at the UN. And do you know who it is that set the stage for this blatant anti-Semitism? The UN, the General Assembly. The anti-Israel vitriol spread here by this organization is what sparked what we are seeing today on college campuses. By falsely condemning Israel and marking the Jewish state as the foundation of all evil, you are emboldening anti-Semites and terrorists alike. It is because of you that these mobs think that attacking Jews is acceptable, that calling for the deaths of Israelis is tolerable. Universities are permitting this Nazi-like behavior because for decades, the UN's anti-Israel stance has been justified by this very body, the General Assembly. Look at the damage you have caused. Look at the generations you have indoctrinated. This is the final moment for the UN, I'm telling you, to show that it remembers the reason it was established in the wake of the Holocaust, to prevent atrocities against Jews. Wake up! I call on the Secretary General and on leaders around the globe to stop hiding behind empty words. There is no freedom to incite murder and violence, and there is no liberty to attack Jewish students. Whoever does not stand against the abhorrent anti-Semitism is a collaborator. But just as it says in the Bible regarding the Egyptians' treatment of the Israelites, וכאשר יענו אותו, כן ירבה וכן יפרוץ. But the more they were oppressed, the Israelites, the more they increased and spread. Remember these words from the Bible. The UN chooses to continue singling out the Jewish people, but we will only grow more resilient and thrive. Colleagues, today marks the 9th.
Okay guys, I'm not going to say anything, but it is up to you to make up your own conclusion, even as we've just listened together, because it's a very, very controversial matter, and therefore I don't want to seem like I'm leaning to one side or the other, because at this particular point we need really to know what has gone wrong, what is not happening, where did the rain start beating us, and what exactly needs to be done. And by sharing and trying to listen from either parties and try to see if there's going to be, like this particular point whereby there is a mutual understanding to see the need to uphold humanity. So, guys, it is as my opinion, it has always been my opinion from this other side. I also do stand corrected. Do drop us your comments in the comment section. Let us exactly know what you think. As far as you see the situation, this insecurity in the Middle East, okay, in the Middle East, that is as currently is happening. And from me, it's an adios.